So hey guys, I wanted to do a little bit of a stream to explain what's going on, talk about writing a little bit, and figured we'd watch some ducks in the meantime. What actually happened was, I started to record in the other room on my portable recorder, but the battery was dead, so I said a lot of bad words, and then I figured, well, I might as well stream since I'm going to keep what I record anyway. My computer is very unhappy, and considering I just turned it on, I don't understand why. It's not really important right now, but it's concerning. Not important to you guys. I did move some stuff around to try to get my Switch hooked up to the computer properly, complete with a tiny little external monitor. I would hold it up except it's plugged in, but it's like maybe about the size of an iPad plus a third, and it's portable. It's cute. But it's like, my desk is not made for more than one monitor. So I had to figure out what I could do. And they're pretty inexpensive, so. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the past month for me. My big thing being that I had a birthday. And, unfortunately we had a family emergency around that time, so birthday was not, it was chill. We didn't do a lot. But I'm going out of town for my birthday next month, so I didn't mind that much, because the real party is next month. Or this month, rather. Haha, the next month for my birthday. But, yeah, and, you know, just stuff. I realize that I've gotten kind of depressed about everything involving the microphone. Streaming, podcasting, all that. I think I moved to Twitch from just plain old recording because I was lonely and there was a pandemic and Twitch sounded fun. And it was. The other reason I went is, honestly, I wanted to see if I could, increase my reach, get a bigger audience. And I didn't. Not really. I made some friends via Twitch, which was great, and very worth the effort. But the majority of my audience followed me from Podcast Land, which is great. Don't get me wrong. It's been awesome to see familiar names in the chat, but nothing really grew beyond that. And then I thought, well, some people don't like the live aspect of the shows, so maybe I should go back to plain recording. And I did get a couple of thank you emails that it moved from being a chatty Twitch thing to being a more focused, mer in a room alone recording. But what happened was, what Twitch gave to my podcast was consistency, because when I knew I had to do a show at 3 o'clock, knowing there would be people waiting for me live was a lot more motivating than me thinking somebody is out there hoping another I Should Be Writing comes out sometime soon. This computer is freaking out. It really does not sound good. Anyway. I'm sure you guys can hear it. So when I went back to regular recording, the consistency just tanked. And I didn't see a lot of improvement there. Now, granted, I probably am, hoping for more instant gratification than is logical. But I realized when I'm not podcasting, I feel weird stopping in the middle of the day to game. And I feel like it's not a good use of my daytime time. Anyway, so everything just kind of fell aside. Then I thought maybe I'll just take some time off away from all the recording and crap and focus on some fiction and then come back in the fall. And then, this is fun, I just had a miscommunication, and turns out I have to write something large in a small amount of time. It was an honest miscommunication on more than one part. I was not the only person, but I am going to have to work really hard. And I worked really hard yesterday, and today it wasn't there. So then I just started to feel despondent about everything. And I realized, do you ever have, like, stuff happens to you and you think this is like on the scale of 1 to 10 of bad, it's like a 4. And then you see people who are having like 7, and they're holding it together better than you feel like you are. And you're thinking, well, I'm only dealing with a 4. Why am I the one suffering? Now, granted, you show people a face that's more put together than you feel inside most of the time. And other times, everybody's pain is relative. If your 4 is the worst thing that's happened to you in a while, it's gonna distract a lot. So I started recording an episode and realized that my batteries on my recorder were dead. And so that's when I came in here and started to swear and do the thing. Because you might have 5 4s and only 1 8. They might only have 1 8. It could be that. It could be, nibbled to death by ducks. Just a whole bunch of little crap. I don't know. And it could also just be, it's depression. I have it. And sometimes it brings me down for absolutely no discernible reason at all. I'm exercising. I'm eating kind of well. I'm doing all the things, trying to get some sleep. Doing all the things they say you need to do. No, I don't believe these things can cure depression. I'm on medication. But I also think that you need to give the medication a foundation to build upon. So if you're not taking care of yourself with food, exercise, sleep, all that stuff, then the medication is not going to do maybe what everything it can do. Also, I'm not a doctor. It's also possible I bit off more than I could chew. I still have the problem of I get great ideas and I want to do the ideas, and I don't realize that new idea energy is real. And when it comes to the energy is gone, but the idea is still there and you have to do it, that's a lot. I not only added a new podcast, which is the re-release of early I Should Be Writing episodes, I added a transcript for all 3 podcasts. And an annotated transcript for Patreon people. This is not how you lessen your workload. Not at all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit, as I just did. Then I'm going to record a short thing for the podcast, and I'm not going to be very interactive. And then I don't know how long I'm going to stream, mainly because my computer really not making good noises. So that's a thing. I also have a couple of interviews I need to get out. So I think after this week of doing podcast stuff, I'm going to take a break from official stuff. I want to still stream. I want to do what I promised to do, which is go over interactive fiction. And there's like a special on visual novels on Steam right now. And I got a Steam Deck. Well, I bought myself a Steam Deck for my birthday. So that's been fun. Yeah, the ADHD thing. A lot of new projects taken on to the point of getting overwhelmed. Yep, that's me. And, I haven't said hi to people. I'm sorry. Hi, Primalina. I want to still stream because I like it. I miss it. I like you guys. Pandemic restrictions are over. I'm still masking a lot of places, which is great. Because so is my kid, because they're a camp counselor, and there was a COVID outbreak last week. But we're doing okay. But I'm saying that even though a lot of life has returned to somewhat normal, I have not returned to the level of interaction with real live people as before pandemic. Although I am going to a baseball game tonight. And we did pub trivia at the Meadery, the Durham. There's a mead bar in Durham, and we did the anime trivia night. I got one question. I promised them I was not going to be good, but I wanted to have fun, and that's what happened. So, anyway, just a couple things on my mind. There's one big thing. This is an I Should Be Writing sort of metacast. It'll be season 19, episode 28. Tomorrow is the I Should Be Writing 18th birthday. My podcast does not have a wish list, but I am accepting presents. And that is a segue. That's not just me being tacky. I was following a TikTok person. Great, now I can't remember his name. Like Chef Reactions, maybe? And it's a professional chef who watches a lot of these weird meal videos that people put out, like, oh, let's just put a whole bunch of dry pasta and some Velveeta and some sauce and a bunch of really nasty stuff, and then we'll bake it all up and eat it. There's a lot of those, apparently, and he gives his reaction. He's kind of deadpan and very foul-mouthed, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But he said, recently, I don't follow like every single thing he puts out, so I don't know if I'm missing some personal stuff, but I believe for personal reasons he left chefing, the restaurant biz, I should say, and has he left the restaurant biz and is now doing content creation full time. And people have said, how can I want to support you, how can I give you money? And he's like, I will never ask you for money. I want you to like and subscribe and spread the word and everything. And that, I know people who have done that, and it sounds noble. You know, it sounds like, no, I don't want you to give me money. The way you can support me are these other ways. But there's two problems with that. One is, you can't guarantee they will support you in those ways. And two is, when somebody wants to support you in a way that would benefit you, you make it as easy as possible. You can say, I feel awkward, but so many people were asking for my PayPal account. Here it is. I'm not asking you for money, but if you want to send me something, it will be appreciated. Something like that. Because you can't... In a perfect world, you could say, hey, everybody, watch my stream, download my podcast, give me a review. When my book comes out, buy it, but don't do X. That other thing you want to do to support me, don't do it. And I've seen a lot of disappointment from people who thought they kind of had a verbal agreement with their audience. And really, people are gonna do what they want to do if you make it possible for them, and then they'll do it more if you make it easy. And what this has to do with writing is, you know, it's hard, especially now when you have a lot of people are trying to build a fiction career, and then either because of disappointment in the traditional market, or because it's just the way they want to go, they will go and do self-pub. So they're already entering that space, probably with a sense of failure or chip on their shoulder. And so you're already feeling kind of like, wow, I really wish I could make a living doing this, but I'm not sure if I'm good enough. Imposter syndrome comes in too. You shouldn't pay me money. I once tried to solicit a story from a woman I went to grad school with, and she wanted to refuse the money because she did not think she was ready to be paid for fiction yet. She didn't think so. She didn't want the money. I mean, I don't even know. And if your goal is to make a living doing this, then you have to accept when people want to give you things. Because increasingly in today's creative world, the things you get from your audience are more nuanced than the price of a book. So if you're creating anything, and people tell you, how can I support you? Or they say, can I send you some money? You say, yes, thanks. Because if you don't, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You can't tell somebody to play by your charity rules when they're the ones offering the charity. I mean, you can, but there's no guarantee they'll play by your rules because they're just like, I got a $5 right here in my hand. Can I give it to you? I mean, you know, the only time I can think of where I've said I don't want to make money this way is when some authors like to carry their books to cons and sell them by hand, and that means they get a much larger cut of the price of the book because they buy it from their publisher wholesale. The thing is that and sometimes you need the money, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you need the money, and therefore that is a good use. But if I'm feeling comfortable, then I want people to buy the book from the publisher, whoever the publisher is, ebook, audiobook, distributor, whoever the distributor is. But because your vote may get me your purchase may get me only $1, but it's also a vote to tell my publisher to give me another book contract. So it's kind of playing the long game. You know all those investment jerks who are just like talking about how stupid people just, why, if I give you $100 today or I give you $200 in a year, why would you choose the $100? When there's $200 next year, I'm like, maybe they need the $100. So, yeah, I'm not putting anybody down who needs to make money by taking books to a con. But I would rather people buy from an official distribution service to help my future contracts. It can be hard if you're raised to bootstrap. Yes, kids are asleep. The time value of money. A future dollar is worth less than a present dollar. Economics fact. That's fair. But what about if you invest it? I think that's the argument for investing, which is, you could take your $100 now, or you could put your $100 in an investment and get more next year. By which I mean I'm right. By which I mean you're right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you had the luxury to invest, then do it. But if you can't afford to, then, you take care of what you need to take care of. I mean, yeah, bad boots cost more than good boots. I think this is a Terry Pratchett thing. Bad boots cost more than good boots because you have to keep replacing them. But the thing is, do you have the money to buy the good boots right now? Yeah. I had some other things written down and they're in the other room. It'll be interesting to see how I handle the next 2 months. I have a lot of writing to do. I have written a good amount. I have gotten my outline. I wrote a good outline. I'm pretty proud of the outline. I'm happy with it. And I think I think I can get it done. The problem there is that I do have 5 days at Disney, and I have like 4 days taking the kid back to school in those 2 months that I'm going to try to write. I am. We'll see. But one thing different with this book is I've told myself I can, I'm comfortable writing non-linearly, finally. Before I would just be like, I would try to write linearly and then just feel like I was being bad or rebellious if I just want to write this scene down. Now I'm just like, if I'm thinking about the scene, I'm going to write the scene. I'll piece it together later. That's what Scrivener's good for, folks. If you're not on the Scrivener train, check it out. I'm not even associated or sponsored or affiliated. I just think that that's one of their best parts, which is you can put your scenes on individual little cards and move them around in the book. Little bit of news from me. I got a starter review from Library Journal, which was very exciting. And She Reads, I guess SheReads.com, listed Chaos Terminal in their books they were looking forward to this fall. So very, very excited for that. I don't have a title for book 3 yet. I'm working on it. But I don't know. I'm not too afraid right now, because the couple of times I have been able to sit down and write, I've gotten a good amount done. And I'm going to try it after this again, even though I got a baseball game in 3 hours. But I don't know. It's going to be a big challenge, but I think I can do it. It's just one little bit at a time. I think Focus Mates is going to help me. Because it helps me get settled and at least get to my desk on time. And I don't want anybody to see me playing a game on my phone, so that's usually not something I worry about when there's accountability in the air. In the air? I can feel accountability in the air tonight. One thing was really funny. Somebody found me on Focus Mates and locked in. They either with Focus Mates they pair you with someone to co-work with, or if someone knows has your link, they can like lock in a session with you. And I put my link in the show notes every time. If you want to work with me, that's fine. And then someone did. They locked me in, and I'm just like, great. And I got there, and he's like, I hope this isn't weird. I just saw you on the thing. Saw you on the Focus Mates thing. I'm like, oh, no, it's not weird, because I have my link on my site. He didn't even find me through my site. He found me on Focus Mates, strangely enough. But also not affiliated or sponsored. Focus Mates just has helped me out. I've been at it about a year now, because I think I started last July. all those J months. Started last July, and it's really helped me with my focus lately. Last Juniper, yes. Yes. Beware the Ides of Juniper. I swear there was something else I wanted to talk about. It was Chaos Terminal news. We're going through the Zamboni. Okay. But I think for the sake of consistency, I'm going to take I should be writing back to the stream. I may continue to write. I may do some co-working streams. I may do some visual novel streams, but I'm neither streaming nor podcasting now. And so I took the podcast off the stream, and now I'm not doing either. So I think I know what I need to do if I want to remain consistent, and I do. And also, I've remembered I've had bad days where y'all have just the fact that I had to stream a show because y'all were waiting on me got me streaming and making content, and you guys helped me with the, what I should talk about, just by asking questions. And when I'm low energy or don't have any ideas, that helps a lot. So, I don't know how chatty I will be, and I really hope I can change whatever the hell's going on with my computer. But when I get back, probably when I get home from taking the kid to college, I will get back on regular podcasting and streaming. My streaming schedule, I may continue to stream in August. I just can't promise how often or consistent it'll be. I think my problem is I feel weird playing a game during the day, but I don't really do much at night. So I could choose a night to do a gaming stream. And then, as I said, raid into Kids Are Asleep, who is very, very good at being consistent with her streaming. Everybody follow the Kids Are Asleep if you like watching awesome games and fun commentary at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I do want to be adding more entertaining content, extra content for people who are supporting via Patreon or Substack. You can also subscribe via Substack now. And so that may take some planning on my part, and y'all know how good I am at that. But planning on doing a full interview with somebody and then adding on another couple of minutes just for Patreon supporters, that's one thing I might do. But if you're watching live, you'll get to see it all. You can see it all for free. But as I said, tomorrow is I Should Be Writing's 18th anniversary, and I'm just still baffled that it is a thing. That I made it this far, and I'm still having stuff to talk about. I think it's possibly because all my inner demons aren't gone yet. I feel like the best we can do is acknowledge that the demons are going to be there. And just be like, okay, demon. I know you're there, but you don't mean as much as you think you do. I still know you're there. But you're not as important as you think you are. I'm still looking for that ability to put my feelings aside and get to work. Because I know for a fact that I'll usually be fine. Okay, you don't feel like writing today. Okay, well, too bad. We're going to go, we're going to sit down, we're going to turn off the distractions, and we're going to write. It's that step of turning off the distractions that is the challenge, but I had a very short honeymoon period with an idea last week where I had an idea and I went, oh my god, this is so cool, I have to put this in my book. And it took about 3 hours until I thought of it later, and I'm like, oh my god, that was stupid. What was I thinking? I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. 3 hours. 3 hours I felt good. But then when I started writing yesterday, I started working on some of that content. Just to see if it'll work. Because my emotions are not reality. They're valid. The feeling's there, but they don't... When my emotions say, I suck, this book sucks, nobody wants to hear my podcast, nobody wants to watch my stream, that's all emotional crap that's not based on fact. Which means I can say, this book sucks, I suck, the stream sucks, the podcast sucks. Podcasting has moved on without me. I just make garbage content. I can say all those things and then get to work. No Kids Are Asleep got an ad. Yes, I was talking about your stream. So this is just a chill stream. We're gonna go to, if you're listening to the recording, we're going to go on to the interview with Wole Talabi, the author of Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon. I'm holding it up to the camera now. There will be pictures and links in the show notes. It is a heist book. The people doing the heist are a minor god and a succubus, and they're pulling a heist at the British Museum. And, I mean, if that doesn't sell it for you, then really, I don't know what's wrong with you, because I love heist things. So, we'll be talking to him at the interview shortly. Welcome back to I Should Be Writing. I am delighted to have on the show today author Wole Talabi, author of Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon. Wole, I'm just so delighted to have you on the show because I'm aware of your short fiction for a while now, and you've gotten some awesome accolades. And so I'm just so happy to have you. Tell us a little bit about Shigidi.
Right. So Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon is my first novel. And I like to think it's the fun novel that was waiting to come out of me, right? Because most of my short fiction I do both fantasy and science fiction, but I do lean more towards science fiction. I like a certain kind of science fiction. I like it a bit philosophical. With Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon, what I really wanted to do was write a novel that used elements of things that were in my head, and just use it to tell a fun, enjoyable story. So the book, basically, to give a quick summary, it is about a nightmare god who works in the Yoruba pantheon. So the Yoruba is my tribe of people from Western Nigeria. And in our mythology, you have lots of gods and really interesting deities. And I kind of reimagined them as this corporate entity. And Shigidi is the god of nightmares. He's considered a minor god. So basically, he's like a menial worker in the company. And basically, all of them need to work to generate faith and belief so that they can keep surviving. Because if people stop believing in you, then the company can't run. And then you die. So he does not like his job, because the Shigidi in Yoruba mythology is typically depicted as being really short and ugly, typically made of clay or wood, which is how he starts off in the book. And then basically one day he meets Succubus, who's kind of a succubus, but a reimagined succubus as well, who's very ancient, and she makes him a deal, right, to transform him into something else. And so he can leave the company. And of course, he decides to do that. And that sets off a whole chain of events with lots of the elder gods in the company who have their own plans for Shigidi, and they're not all aligned or good. And this basically starts this whole globe-trotting adventure from Asia to Europe, where they have to basically do things here and there to survive, and eventually end up having to conduct a supernatural heist at the British Museum.
Heists at the British Museum are just like, you can't go wrong, really.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I've been to the British Museum several times, and the last time I was there, I saw there are a few items in there that I really wanted to take with me. Including the Brass Head of Obalufon, which is usually, it's a real object, by the way. I'm not sure if everybody knows that. It's an actual object. It's usually called the Bronze Head of Ife, but it's not actually bronze. That was a mislabeling. From the early days, it's more of a brass alloy. These days, they just call it a brassy alloy. So, yeah. I felt the urge to want to conduct a heist, so I just decided to write it into the novel.
Yeah, I think more heists should be against the British Museum for many, many things that they claim they own. But anyway, so one thing that really I'm starting to get this feeling of things that kind of separate beginning writers from pros is beginning writers may throw a bunch of excitement and violence in the first scene thinking that will grab the reader, and that's not what does it. But you throw a bunch of exciting stuff that does grab the reader. Can you tell me, like, what do you feel the difference is in a scene that starts with a lot of action and possible injury, as in the case of your book, and people who want to write that but just can't seem to grab the reader?
Right. I think I favor starting with a bit of action. And like you said, that's something a lot of beginning writers would do because maybe they've seen other people do it. But I think the heart of it is to link the action with the character, right? Like a lot of in the opening scene of my novel, it opens in the middle of a chase scene, right? Which we return to later in the book. But I like to think that in that scene, you meet most of the main characters. You get a clear sense of, the relationship dynamics, at least the key element of the relationship dynamics between them, and a sense of character, like who they are, what they're interested in, what motivates them, what they care about, essentially. I think that has to be woven into the action. And this is something that took me a while to learn as well, that you can't just have stuff happening. The stuff has to mean something. And that's, I think, judging by the feedback, I think my opening chapter works as an effective hook. And I feel like if I had just described the chase without linking it to the relationship specifically between Shigidi and Norma and how that's kind of coming to the fore in the middle of this high tension situation, if I just written, oh yeah, there's a chase and there's this happening and there's this in the sky and all that, it would be superficially interesting, but maybe not really a good hook.
Yeah, but your hook is done in the first sentence, and yes. that is masterful. Can I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So there he was, barely conscious in the back of a black cab being driven down the Haymarket Road on the Spirit side of London by a man who died 70 years ago when Neoma finally told Shigidi that she loved him. I mean, there's so many questions. And I feel like the beginning of a book needs to make the reader ask questions that they trust you will answer.
Okay.
And
yes.
So we've got the man who died 70 years ago, why is the love story happening? Why is she finally saying she loves him when it really looks like almost the end of a story here because you don't know what's going to happen. And so I've just become really interested in first even sentences like this that just manage to grab you and don't let you go. So, can I ask how many drafts it took you to get to that gem of an opening sentence?
But I was going to tell you even if you didn't ask, because quite literally zero. It was the first line. It was the first. Well, okay. When I decided I was going to write a novel about this story, that was actually the first line that I wrote. That was, and I didn't really. And it never changed that much. There's like small revisions, but overall, that was the shape of the sentence from the beginning. So it kind of popped into my head like if this is the story you're telling, that's how you started. And in fact, when I first started, because I had written a few short stories, 2 short stories featuring the characters of Norma and Shigidi before. And some elements of those stories make it into the novel. So that's why I don't want to say it was the first thing I wrote. Mm-hmm. But when I did decide I was going to tell this story, originally thinking it would be a novella, yes, that was the very first line I wrote. And I'm not sure where it came from. I feel like perhaps because I had written a short story featuring these characters before, and I had been thinking about what I wanted I always knew I wanted to come back to it. And in my mind, it was a novella. And I'd been thinking a lot about the story arc of what exactly was going to happen. So I knew how it was going to end, but I wanted to start it kind of at the end, or almost at the end. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I thought about it it had been stewing in my mind for a while before I finally sat down and wrote it.
Right.
Didn't really.
When did you realize you were going to write a novel about these characters? If you've already been playing with the characters and that concept for a while in short stories.
Right. So yeah, there's actually a really clear point. It was when I was at the British Museum for the last time I was there, which was in 2018, I believe. Yes, 2018. I was attending the Kane Prize ceremony because I was nominated for the Kane Prize for African Writing. And as part of the ceremony, they fly everyone into London, and it's a whole very wonderful. Yeah, it's a wonderful experience. You stay at a very nice hotel that's fairly close to Buckingham Palace, like walking distance.
Very cool.
Attended lots of, very cool. We attended a lot of really cool events, and one of the things we did was visit the British Museum. I had been there before because I used to live in London when I was a graduate student. So it was a different way of coming back. You know, when you're a student, you don't really have that much money. So London is all about like saving money, taking the night bus, minimizing everything, as opposed to coming as an invited guest where you're like going everywhere by taxi and everything is nice. So at the museum, I was there and I went with some of the fellow nominees and we went to the African galleries, the Salisbury African galleries. And looking around, there's a scene in the novel towards about 3/4 of the way in, I think, where Shigidi and Noma are in the British Museum and going through. And there's some sentiments that Shigidi expresses, like feelings about like seeing things being displayed there and just feeling like they don't belong there.
Right.
That's directly lifted from how I felt. That was my emotional state being there, because while I love museums, I've been going to them. My parents used to take me to local museums in Nigeria growing up. So I love museums, but I think there's something fundamentally wrong about putting something up for display, even if it's educational, if the people to whom that thing belongs, morally, ethically, historically, culturally, don't agree with it. Right? It's almost like displaying a prisoner, so to speak. So that was kind of the feeling I had. And it was like after leaving that, a few days after leaving the museum is where I kind of decided that, yes, we're doing the heist. I'd always known I was going to, Shigidi and Noma were already together. So the first story I had written was about Noma just doing her thing as a succubus. And then the second story I had written was a story about Shigidi, and I had brought Noma in where they kind of meet each other. And I always knew I wanted to do a third story with them kind of going off together on this bigger adventure. And it was a few days after visiting the British Museum, I was like, yes, that is exactly what they do. Heist at the British Museum.
You don't have to give me links or anything, but are these previous stories online that I can find and link to for the listeners?
One of them is online, yes. There's a story called I, Shigidi, on Abyss and Apex.
Okay.
So that's available to read for free online. The other story is just called Noma. It's the name of the co-protagonist of the novel. And that is in my first collection of stories called The Incomplete Solutions. I don't think it's anywhere online. So, yeah.
Okay. I'll try to find links to as many as I can. Do you think you would have... I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. I'm sorry.
No.
I think a lot of people wonder if they need to write vignettes or character studies or short stories before they get started on a novel just to get to know the characters. Do you recommend that path that you took, or do you think you're or if you're working on a next novel, is it going to be led up to in the same way? Are you going to start cold? Or how do you feel about this path that you took towards this book? Because it's interesting.
That's a great question, actually, because I think some of it depends on the book, and what the story itself really is. I do think there is something helpful about doing a short story as almost like a pilot project or trial run to get the voice of the character, to get the, tone of the story, maybe try one or two different ones and then see, what you think will work better for a longer form, how you enjoy writing the characters. I think having those two previous short stories as a kind of like framework to build up from helped a lot. And in fact, the second story, Shigidi, a lot of those events, basically that story is folded back into the novel. It's broken up and expanded, but it's mostly in the novel. So I can see the advantage of that. The thing is, for my second novel, which I've been working on maybe even longer than Shigidi and the Brass Head of Obalufon, I'm not doing that at all. This is a story that I never really wrote short stories around or anything. It's just something I've been thinking about for a really long time. And I've just been enjoying writing it. I also think it depends where you are in your journey. Like for a long time, I used to say and complain to like my fellow authors and friends. Like, I don't know if you know Tade Thompson, but he's heard me complain so many times about like, I don't like writing long form. I love short stories. So at some point, I think I had emailed him and told him, I don't think I'm ever doing a novel. I'm just going to write short stories and novelettes, maybe. And that's it. And he was like, sure, you can, that's a choice you can make, but don't do it because you think you can't. Do it because you don't want to, right? If you choose not to write a long form.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I think at that stage, I was enjoying myself more and I felt more confident writing short stories. So I feel like that was a good build up to this novel. And now I've kind of convinced myself that I can write long form because I've done novellas and now a whole novel. And in fact, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've, written more novellas than in the previous 10 years.
Oh, right?
Wow. Yeah, well, I had only written one before and I've done 3 since. So
that's still more.
Yes, it's 300% increase. I'll go with that. Well, 200%. But I think it depends. If you're an author that's fairly confident in your ability to write long form and you're enjoying, like you start the story and you're enjoying it, then just keep going. But I guess if you stall out, and this is something I've been thinking about for my second novel, because I do feel like I'm stalling out a little bit in the, at the 35-40% mark. I might actually pause and write a few short stories set in that world just to kind of reorient myself. So, yeah, there's a few dependencies there, but at least for Shigidi, it worked. Writing short stories before worked and they helped. So I will not, push back against that approach because it worked for me.
Excellent. One thing we talk about a lot on this show is balancing your everyday life with your writing life, and you are an engineer. And yes. I know a lot of the listeners have more technical jobs during the day and write during the night. How do you balance that in terms of mental energy and, I guess, mainly mental energy? Some people could say using different sides of their brain makes it easier, and some people say if you think so hard about science all day, you don't want to write about fantasy at night. Or how do you balance that?
It's a great question, and it's a bit funny because I was at the office today, and my friends at work, they were like, "How do you balance, like all the different engineering stuff, and then you go home and you write like fiction?"
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, do you have like three compartments in your brain or something? I was like, no, it's the same. It's the same creative brain. I think the way I kind of balance it is I need to take breaks in between tasks. And for me, writing is a kind of task. So I've figured I cannot just jump from one to the other. In general, my approach is I struggle to write at night, so I usually write first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. I've tried both ways. I used to be a morning writer, then I switched to night, and now I've come all the way back to writing in the morning. It's by far the most efficient for me. So I usually wake up quite early, write for a few hours, somewhere in the middle, take a 15-minute break, come back to it. And then once I'm done writing for the day, right? And I need to reset and like get mental energy to move on to work mode. And usually what's a good break for me is to do some exercise. So I usually go for a walk, sometimes go for a run, or if I can make it to the gym or something for, an hour maybe. And that's like a clean break between the writing and the work. There's the gym stuff. And that's usually when I maybe listen to a podcast or just listen to music. And when I come back, it's like, okay, now work. So that approach works for me. I think in terms of helping to manage the thought processes between switching from writing to engineering mode, basically. But I will say they're different in terms of the kind of focus that I use, but the overall energy is the same, which is at the beginning when I'm writing, right? There's kind of two ways I write. There's the raw writing where I'm writing the first draft and I'm just going through what's in my mind. And that's kind of like free form. I don't ask myself too many questions. If I feel like writing something, I just put it in. And if it doesn't work, we'll change it later. And even at work, I take the same approach as well. If it's a new problem and we're trying to figure out a solution, then I also don't edit myself. I also just throw ideas out. In fact, I tell people sometimes like, okay, it's like brainstorming. Yes. Just throw your random ideas at me. I want bad ideas, right? Like give me the bad ideas too. And somewhere we'll take everything and then we edit it. So it's kind of almost the same approach. I guess it's creative in a different way, but being able to separate the tasks helps do both more efficiently, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I think a lot of people just try to figure out how to fit all that in, both on a time management and on a mental energy management scenario. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think the time management, I think helps with the mental management for me. And I think it also just helps to like I always have very modest writing goals. Like my writing goal in the morning, usually I don't really track word count or anything. My goal is, if I say I'm going to write for 1.5 hours, I sit in front of the computer for 1.5 hours. That's it. If I write 100 words, I write 100 words. If I write 1,000, that's great too. But I don't try to like put pressure, especially when I'm, drafting. I just let it come freely.
Do you have trouble with distractions on the computer or phone or anything?
Oof. There can be, but I think writing early in the morning helps.
True.
I feel like doing it at night would be harder because there's usually more distractions at night. But for me, for example, I typically wake up at like 5 a.m. So it's just,
yeah.
And there's not much else going on. So I can focus until about 7 a.m. when things start to come alive.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that about the early morning, but I haven't been able to get up earlier than 7 on a regular basis, so that's still a bit of a struggle for me.
It's not easy.
Yeah. What do you, speaking of struggles, what do you struggle with? I feel like all of us have some aspect of fiction that we find harder than others. What is yours and how do you handle it?
I think the thing I struggle with most is multiple scenes with multiple characters, right? More than, I'd say, 4 or 5 is kind of where it starts to get difficult. 2, I'm very comfortable writing stories with, interactions between 2 characters. 3, 4, but once we have about 5 characters all interacting together in one scene, I've realized that those tend to be harder for me to write. They take me more time to arrive at, how to switch between what each person is saying, but maintain like a clear point of view. Like there should be one clear point of view that all these are coming through. But then you also want each of their personalities to come through and be able to describe the scene, visualize everything. So it's, those kinds of scenes, I think, just based on observation, they tend to take me longer. Right.
What do you find easy?
Oh, the exact opposite of that. It's, there's a term for this. I don't remember what it is, but I think it's like the classic 2 people in a room scene.
Oh, okay. The bottle scene? I think that's more television.
Yeah, that's a television.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's just that stripped down. It's just 2 people in a room discussing or, in the middle of some action or fighting or, playing, whatever it is, that direct 2-person interaction. I find those really, really easy to write and fun to write. I really just enjoy them. I also really like action scenes, which, I open my novel.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's probably just because for a long time, during my teenage years, I kind of cycled. Initially, I wanted to be a writer. Like, I loved books. I used to read a lot when I was young. And I think when I got to about age, somewhere between 11 and 13, let's say 12, it's a good medium, I kind of switched and I wanted to be a film director.
Oh.
And I grew up watching a lot of Hong Kong cinema, a lot of action cinema. Yeah. So I really just thoroughly enjoyed that. And for a long time, my dream, I think up until I was about 18, 19, I had this clear idea that I would graduate as an engineer, work for, 25, 30 years, save up a lot of money, use a significant amount of that money to fund my own independent film, and then do all the film festivals and circuits and become this big movie director in the second act of my life after, retiring early from engineering. And then in my early 20s, that changed from wanting to be a director to back to my original dream of being a writer. But I think the residue is still there of all those cinematic influences, especially Asian action cinema, which is something I watched way too much of as a child. I think maybe I also kind of write a bit like I'm writing movie scenes. I tend to visualize a lot, like almost like a mental storyboard of like, okay, this is what happens, this is where everybody is, this is what everything looks like.
Yeah, your scenes are very clear.
Okay, I'm glad about that because I try.
Oh yeah, that's what I struggle with. So I always really appreciate it when somebody else does it seemingly effortlessly. I don't know how many drafts it took, but it just really it lands really well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it did. I mean, the novel as a whole took a few drafts, but for sure the action scenes, I think maybe I revised those 2-3 times. It was mostly dialogue and a few other things here and there that we had to work on multiple iterations.
So when I decided to write a mystery, I realized I had to dive in and learn mystery tropes and things like that. I did it backwards, but it worked out okay. And when you say heist, my first thought is how much heists are so intricate. And so what did you do to research for a proper heist? Did you read heist books? Did you watch heist movies? What did you do?
Oh, this is a great question. Yes, the answer is option B. I watched a lot of heist movies. Mm-hmm. Well, technically, I should say I rewatched them because I love heist movies. So I've seen, a lot of the classic heist movies, Out of Sight, Rafiki, Heat, all this, almost every variant of heist movie I've probably seen. And there were a few things that I knew about the sensibility of a heist story, right? At least cinematically, what it should be like. Like, you need a getaway driver. So in the book, you have a getaway driver. You need like the muscle, but you also need the brains. And even Shigidi kind of is the muscle, and Noma is kind of the brains. And you kind of need that crew. But I wanted to keep the crew small because, as I said, I struggle a bit with too many characters. So it's like, keep it small to about 3. So essentially what I did was rewatched a lot of heist movies to remind myself of the core sensibility of what made a good heist story. And then I made a conscious decision to invert it a little bit because generally speaking, heists work based on tension. A lot of the time you have these big planning scenes. Well, there's almost 2 kinds, if we're going generally speaking. But the most common one is there's a lot of planning. You follow the crew as they're getting what they need, as they're planning out everything. And then they get into the heist and they start, and you almost have like this mental map in your head. So they need to do A, B, C, D, E in this time frame. If not, it doesn't work. And so you're kind of tracking that and you're holding your breath to see, okay, they passed the first checkpoint. Okay, next one's coming. What if, and something always goes wrong.
Definitely.
Something always goes wrong and they need to work their way around it and then make it to the point. So what I kind of consciously decided I was going to do with this heist is something goes wrong and then something else goes wrong. And then something else goes wrong. And then something else goes wrong. And stuff just keeps going wrong all the way till the end. So I think there's about 3 or 4 things that go wrong during the heist. And it just becomes this kind of madcap race to just try to survive. So that was one choice, just because I thought it made it more interesting. But definitely having an awareness of heist movies, the general shape of a heist story, and by rewatching all those movies, reminding myself of it, that definitely made a big impact. And it helped me a lot when I was writing the back half of the novel, which is mostly focused on the heist itself.
Yeah. One thing I feel like a lot of writing instructors don't talk a lot about are, I guess, what I call like personal conflict and story conflict. And one thing that I love about heist movies, in particular, actually, is that everybody's got their own reason for being involved with the heist, and they may not always agree on why they're doing it, even if they're all going for the same goal. So that builds more conflict and builds more tension. And one of my weaknesses is pretty much at the beginning, all my people are friendly. They all like each other. They're all happy. It's like, okay, we're all going to get together. We're going to do this thing. And there's a conflict out there. But between us, we're all just friends. And then I start yelling at myself. And then I remembered that first drafts are allowed to be garbage. And so I start putting in more intricate characterization and motivations like in later drafts, which makes the ultimate conflict richer. But yeah. I want to know how you approach that.
Well, I think without giving away too much.
Oh yeah, don't spoil.
Story work. Yeah. No spoilers. Right from the beginning, I wanted to have an ongoing conflict between the three main, characters involved in this heist. Which is, we do have Shigidi and Norma, who are basically a couple, but they're like a new couple. And the way they become a couple is not, it's very hasty. It's very messy. They basically start off, it's almost the enemies to lovers trope. But it all happens in one night. So that kind of has some inbuilt tension as well, because it's almost like you go out, you meet someone, you have a great time, you make an impulsive decision like, hey, you know what, we should be together, we're a couple now, and you're like, yes, of course. And then you go home and you sleep together, and you wake up the next morning and you're like, okay, now we actually need to live together. Like, figure out each person's work schedule, and do I like sleeping next to this person, and how are they going to do this? Like, you need to figure it out. So this is kind of that phase. A lot of this book kind of follows that phase of Shigidi and Norma smashed together. Like, they have this big explosive romance, so to speak, and now they're working out the kinks. And then the third character, who becomes their getaway driver, essentially has history with Norma, so it's almost like a love triangle. And that's kind of how I had set it up in my mind initially. Now, some elements of the love triangle kind of got toned down as I was working through the story, just to give more focus, but it's still there. So I had that tension inbuilt between the three characters from the beginning. I guess it's something I like to have. Usually I tend to think about stories a lot before I actually start writing them. So I usually have several weeks or sometimes months, in some cases years, where I just think about the story, but I don't even write a single word of it. And by the time I come to it, I usually have a clear sense of, main character beats and kind of where I want each character arc to end up. And usually that involves a bit of tension, and conflict, character conflict.
Do you ever have your character conflict / arcs work against what you have ultimately planned for the story?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think nothing is immediately coming to mind. But I'm fairly certain it's happened at least once, where I was thinking of a certain character conflict, and then halfway through realized that, that doesn't work with the larger theme of the story, the larger conflict of the story. Yeah, I feel like it's happened once, but I don't remember when. Might have been a while ago. And I think for that, if something like that happens, that's usually where I would take a break from the story. I'd probably pause it for a bit and think a bit more, right? I like the keeping things in my head for a while approach, and then coming back when I have a clear sense of direction. And then once I have that sense of direction, it's just about getting the words on the page at a steady pace every day. So yeah. Should check. That's a good question. I need to see when that's happened before.
Yeah, it's a rough thing. I sometimes run into that and always wonder how other people handle it, because I'm not sure if I handle it properly myself. So who are you reading right now that you're excited about?
Ooh. You just have all the best questions.
Oh, thank you.
So my reading that I'm excited about. I like that because it's really specific. I'm currently reading, I just finished reading 2 books, and I'm currently reading a third one. The third one is an old book. It's called Far Horizons. It was an anthology edited by Robert Silverberg. I think it came out in the 80s or early 90s. And I just have a lot of classic science fiction books that I have a bad habit of just picking up whenever I see them.
That's not a bad habit. I don't think that's bad at all.
I describe anything that I do almost compulsively as a bad habit because that's kind of how I got into books. Was back in Nigeria growing up, we didn't really have I never went to a big fancy bookstore. You would always go to these secondhand bookstores, or in some cases, it was just literally a guy with a bag. There would be a guy with a bag walking on the street, with a bell, ringing the bell and shouting books, books, books. And he would get to a place, put the bag down, put all the books out on the ground, and you just walk by, and if you see something you like, you pick it up. And they were always like the trade paperbacks, secondhand books. So that's a lot of what I read. So now whenever I see any of those secondhand bookstores, it just triggers. It's like that Pavlovian reaction, right? I'm like, yes, I'm a child again, and I need to grab one. Like classic science fiction, secondhand paperback, I need to have one. So that's where I picked that up, and I'm finally getting around to read it. It has Nancy Kress, it has Ursula K. Le Guin, it has Dan Simmons, so it's not a bad book.
No, clearly.
I'm enjoying it. But the one that I'm excited about is it's a book I just finished, which is a book by a newer author, Temi O. It's called More Perfect. And I actually wrote a review for it for Locus. It was a great book. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best books I've read so far this year.
I think I saw an interview with both you and her, right?
Interview?
I think so.
No?
No,
I don't think they've done an interview together.
Okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
No, yeah. But it has really interesting themes about, especially, it's one of those things that I feel, sometimes you read a book and you feel like, oh, this is something I could have written. It's a topic that I'm very interested in. So it basically follows, it's set in London in the future where there's this technology called the Pulse that allows people directly connect to something like the internet, but, raised to power 2. And from there, that's where the book starts, but then it goes much further to discuss ways that you can manipulate consciousness and dreams and things like that. Oh, yeah. And these are all things I love. Like even my short story, the one currently nominated for the Hugo, is literally about that, right? Like recording human consciousness.
I totally should have led with that. I'm so sorry. I'm going to record now. Hugo finalist. There, we got that in there. I'm sorry. Yes, you're the story you're nominated for also deals with consciousness.
The nature of consciousness,
right.
Yes. And Temio's story does that as well. But it's also, it's a retelling of a Greek myth, which I love myths. Right, like my novel also contains a lot of Nigerian mythology. She also uses a bit of Nigerian mythology, a lot of Greek mythology to tell this science fictional story that, features young people, and it's a bit of a tragic love story because, Greek tragedy. But yeah, I think it's it's written in this really lovely prose that's just really enjoyable to read. So yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's something I was excited to read. And I'm really happy I got to read it. So that's probably the most recent thing I read that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I realize I've got her 2019 book on my wish list, Do You Dream of Terra 2? So I'm excited about that one. And yes, actually, you were on stage with her 3 years ago, which is the interview I found.
At the Ake Festival, yes, that is true. In 2019.
Yes.
Now I remember. Yeah.
Okay,
I was thinking you meant like a written interview.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just like watching that interview and recognize the name. So,
yeah, I enjoyed I enjoyed Do You Dream of Terror 2 as well. It's quite interesting. I do think More Perfect is a more accomplished book, I would say.
Your word choice is so wonderful. That's great.
It feels like it's aiming higher, and it mostly delivers. So,
well, the goal
maybe
is
it's just because. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maybe it's because it's a topic that I'm personally very interested in. So I might be biased.
Right. Well, we're all biased with our own personal preferences, but we all want to grow as writers. So I think, according to you, that's going in the right direction. So
I think so. I think so.
What are you working on right now? If you can tell us anything.
I think I can. So right now I am finishing up edits for my second collection of short fiction, which is coming out next year. It will be called Convergence Problems. So I put the collection together. It contains a brand new novella, some new short stories, some previously published short stories, some rewritten short stories. So I'm just finalizing the edits on that. And at the same time, I'm also working on a new novella, which is actually part of a bigger project. So this novella is set in what we call the Sautiverse. And Sauti is the name of a writing collective that I belong to.
Oh, cool.
Yes. And the collective, actually, we have an anthology coming out because it's a collective of African speculative fiction authors. And we've basically been meeting since, early last year, twice a month, to basically build this fictional world. It's a secondary science fantasy world. And we basically built it from the ground up. It's a binary star system with 5 planets, and each planet has different cultures. And the whole idea was to infuse as much variety of African concepts and philosophies and culture and, all of that into the world and have this very Afrocentric secondary world that's a sandbox that all of us can tell stories in. So we've built the world, and we have an anthology coming out in November of this year, which is called Mother Sound, the Sautiverse anthology. I edited it, so I do not have a story in it. I've written the introductions to all the stories just to kind of tie the whole thing together. But I'm also writing my own story set in that world, which is a novella. That's the one I'm currently trying to finish up. And then after that, I will be working on my second novel. I have been working on my second novel for quite a while. I keep going off and on, taking months off it and then coming back. Can't really say too many details yet because it's still
I understand.
At an early stage. But yes, I continue to work on it, and hopefully maybe a sequel to Shigidi. I have an idea already. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah. But for now, yeah.
Can we go back to the collective question? I love that idea, and it's something I've dabbled with in podcasting but we were mostly doing self-publishing things, and one person owned the world. But if you're all working together as a collective, how does that work with IP? Like, how is that going to handle? Do you guys have something in place for that? Because that's kind of important and can ruin friendships if you don't.
Yes. And so we took quite a bit of time setting up that aspect of things. Essentially, the way it works and the way we've set it up is we've split the IP into 2 parts. So there is IP for the world, and then there's IP for the stories. And the IP for the world, which is basically the setting, that belongs to the core members of the collective, equally shared. Right. So we basically, whenever anyone writes a story in that world, they basically they need to get permission from the collective. So they need to send in a pitch. They need to sign what we call a contributor agreement, which basically acknowledges that the world belongs to the collective, and the collective has basically said, yes, you can tell a story in this world, and the story belongs to you. You can sell that story, whatever else you want to do, you can do with the story, right? And if you make more than a certain amount of money, so we have a threshold below which you don't need to give anything back to the collective, but if you cross the threshold, then you give 10% back, right? As kind of a licensing for the world. So that's the way we've set it up, and we've had lawyers review it. Everybody reads and signs the agreements. So far, it seems to be working. In the anthology, we do have contributors as well as members of the collective. So not everybody is joining collective full time. Some people can just dabble, right? You sign the contributor agreement, write one story, you're done. So the whole idea behind the anthology was to kind of do a trial run, right? To pilot test this process of us creating the world, writing our stories, and then inviting contributors to do one-off stories as well, also set in the world. And then we'll see if we can expand it, because I would really love for it to be open for basically any African author anywhere in the world to come in, tell a story, do well with it, and only give back if they're actually really successful, right?
That's a really great system. I love that.
I think so. I hope it works. Yeah, it's a bit of a unique approach, and it's based on some interesting copyright law. Luckily, one of the members of the collective is also is a lawyer as well. So we've had several revisions on it.
But gosh, what nation's copyright law are you following? Because there's just so many different places with different copyrights.
Yeah, so essentially the core, the base, everything is based in the U.S.
Okay. And so will it be published in the U.S.?
Yes.
Ooh, exciting. Can I get you back this fall to talk about it after it's out?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
In November or December, yes, I'd love to come back. Maybe not just me. Maybe I'll come maybe we could do a 2 or 3-way conversation with one or 2 other members of the collective.
I love that idea. Who else is in the collective?
So there's Eugene Bacon, who is a Tanzanian Australian. There's Stephen Embleton, Dare Shegun Faloo. Mostly, yeah, there's 10 of us.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you know any of them, but yeah, that's who's in the collective. And then we have contributors. The contributors you might know, we have Tobias Buckel.
Oh, yeah.
Contributing, yeah.
That's very exciting.
He wrote an awesome story. He was really excited to join the project from the beginning. Once we announced it, he was messaging me like, yes, I'd love to contribute. We also have Ogenechowe Ekpeki Donald, who's also contributing. We have Tendai Huchu, or TL Huchu, who's also contributing. So yeah, we have quite a decent group of people together, and I'm hoping the anthology does well.
Oh, that's going to be very exciting. Very cool. So give me your advice to new writers, if you have any.
Oof. Okay. I'll give my standard advice to all new writers. The only thing that I can say for certain always helps with writing is to read a lot.
Yes.
I have noticed, and I've met a few younger authors who, when they start writing, they stop reading because they basically shift the time, right? All the time they spend.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of have to consciously make time to keep reading. because it's kind of one of the only ways to really learn different ways of doing things, to get new ideas, just to be inspired and to just keep enjoying stories, right? Is to just keep reading. And once you start writing, I've noticed once I started writing, when I read, I see things differently. It's almost like, to use a bad metaphor, it's almost like you see another layer of the matrix. You know, it's like I can see what this author is setting up now. I'm not just going along with the story, but I can see what they're trying to set up. And if I still enjoy it, even though I could see how they were setting it up, then I know they did it well.
Yeah.
And I might go back and reread it because I'll be like, I want to be able to do that. Like, that worked really, really well.
Yes.
So I think, there's lots of writing advice out there. There's so many things I've seen. And for every single writing rule I think I've come across, there's probably one that directly contradicts it. But the only one I have seen is, if you read a lot, your chances of being a good writer go up.
That I've never heard it said exactly like that, so that's really good. Thank you. Yeah. So this might speak to my own self-esteem, but have you ever had the problem of reading something in the same genre that you're writing, and the thing you're reading is so good it actually works against what you're working on? Because I was reading The Expanse when I was working on my first science fiction book, and I just had to put it aside because I was so depressed. I'm like, I can't write. It's not even the same story, but it was a space story with action, and mine was not. I didn't think mine was as good, so I actually had to put that aside. I didn't stop reading, but that specific thing I had to step away from. Have you ever had that?
No, actually, I don't think so. I have had the feeling of, reading something that is executed so well and it's so good that, you get that feeling of, I can never be this good. But I think it's almost inbuilt in my character. I feel my wife says this all the time. I'm stubborn. I'm a really stubborn person. So in my head, the thought process kind of goes, oh, this is wonderful. I'll never be able to do something like this, but I can try. And that's kind of just how my brain is. Okay, even if I don't get there, I can try, and that's where the stubbornness kicks in. I am perfectly willing to keep trying indefinitely. As long as I'm making progress and I feel like I'm doing better and I'm learning, I'm doing more than I could before, even if I don't get there, if I'm upslope and I keep going upslope, I consider that a win, right? So, I guess I should thank my dad for instilling that in me when I was a child, because he was always like, don't give up. You can slow down, you can take a break, you can whatever you want to do, but do not give up. You can keep trying. You only lose when you stop trying.
Great.
So, stubbornness is another useful trait.
Stubbornness is useful. Well, where can we find you online? And I'm assuming we can find Shigidi on all many bookstores and online venues. Yes, wherever books are sold, there's a wonderful ebook that is also available for pre-order. So it's available in audio and hardcover. Paperback will be out soon. Release date is August 8th in the US, and then it will roll out in different territories. I think in September, and then up until February next year to keep rolling. But starting August 8th in the US. I'm available wherever books are sold. And you can find me online. I have a website called wtalabi.wordpress.com. And all my social media stuff is also wtalabi. So on Twitter, I'm at wtalabi. Instagram, same. TikTok, which I just joined. Oh boy. Also the same. We should talk offline about that. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Oh yeah, me too. It's a strange place, strange and wonderful place.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a delight talking to you, and you've given me a lot to think about, which I really appreciate.
Thank you, Mer. It's awesome talking with you. And like I said, it was one of the first podcasts I listened to when I started listening to podcasts. So I'm happy to be on.
Thank you. Well, we'll have you back.
I can listen to myself.
Yes, you can. We'll have you back in the fall to talk about the anthology. Maybe we can get... Yes, we'll talk about other people to include as well. But yeah, the book is out. Well, it'll probably be out by the time this airs. So, and we'll have links in the show notes to everything we talked about. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. But this has just been a little I Should Be Writing metacast of some thoughts. I can be found at merverse.com. My socials, I don't know where I am these days. I tried to log on to Blue Sky on my phone yesterday. I couldn't log in. I went to Twitter. That was fun for a minute. I need to get over myself and be comfortable doing TikTok. Because I actually have some good ideas for TikTok. Of course, as I said earlier in the stream, I don't know if that can be... The cool ideas is adding on more work. And I don't know if I have the spoons to do that. But, yeah, I'm at merverse.com, Mighty Mer on all the socials and Twitch. My Twitch schedule is going to be a little bit up in the air for a little while. Because I have a book to do, and that is going to be my main priority. But I'll be around. If you follow, you might get a notification when I go live. I say might because I don't get notifications for most of the people I follow. Like, I'm lucky that for the kids are asleep, I just know when she's streaming. So, because you're very consistent, again. So, the fact that all my many devices don't tell me, well, that's okay. But other people, I miss. But anyway. Fussiness, depression, and imposter syndrome aside, I got a book to write because I should be writing. And so should you be. And I still like the idea of doing a more structured show live and then talking to you guys. I might miss some good chat, but I think that might be the happy medium between giving the people who listen on the podcast feed, giving them their what they want, while still being able to give the stream what it wants. Oh, hi, Feverwood. Welcome. Yeah, I'm talking about writing and streaming ducks. You're welcome for the ducks. I'm glad you're here. I definitely try to stick to the times posted. Yeah, you do great. I found another streamer doing ducks, and it was very clearly a kid. And he was getting so excited about streaming and then so despondent that no one was there. And I said hi, and he got super excited. And then I felt really guilty about leaving. So I tried to have it on in the background. But he was just very earnest with his ducks. He called me bro a lot. I didn't correct him. Listening to Myrna doing embroidery. Reading Slush. Oh, now you're making me look bad. Escape Pod just had its 900th episode. We didn't do a lot of fanfare for that, but it is very exciting. I think we'll probably do fanfare for the 1000th. Right, Valerie? We should probably talk about that. Start talking about that soon. You know what's really funny about working on this current book is that I have sent my agent 2 10,000-word samples of other projects. And he sent me comments on one that I have not implemented yet, but he hasn't sent me comments on the other one, which I thought was better. So I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about that. I honestly don't know if he's going to take pity on me and wait until my current book is done before he gives me comments, so I don't start thinking about the other project. But I'm excited about it. Fanfare for 1,000 is probably good. Thank you, Shauna. Yeah, I don't know. Just the mood is not good now, and I'm working hard to fix that. I'm proud of myself for doing yoga. It's still really hard. Some things are really hard. But I am improving. I think it's just been a long, long time since I've had a regular exercise regimen. And so I'm very proud of this. And I'm also really... The Apple Fitness Plus programs are really, really working for me. It's not quite like Peloton where you join live classes, but each trainer has at least like 1 to 2 new classes a week, so you don't have to get bored. And they have classes at different lengths, so if you've got time for a 10-minute yoga practice or a 45-minute yoga practice, you'll find it. And they usually have somebody modifying. They always have somebody modifying. They've got like the trainer, and they got 2 people behind the trainer, one doing it with them, which I guess they're kind of redundant, but the other one doing it for people who need modifications. But the thing is, whenever something gets really challenging, they cut the camera to look at the host from the side. And from the camera's perspective, the person modifying is perpendicular to the left, meaning it's not on camera. That person's not on camera at all. So you see the trainer doing something really impressive, and you're like, okay, cool, but how do I do it? But they don't show you that because they're showing the trainer being impressive. Yeah, and I realized that I was kind of annoyed that there's nowhere you can comment or talk about these workouts, and then I realized, of course there is. It's called Facebook. But I don't go to Facebook. So, yeah. I'm assuming there's a big Apple Fitness Plus fan group there. I know a lot of the trainers are on Instagram. And I don't know, it's just sometimes you don't... it's like that with Focus Mate. I couldn't tell you what was going to work for me until I found it. But... do they make me a better, a stronger person or a better writer? No, but they are better at getting me places and doing things on a schedule than anything else I've ever experienced. So I do a workout with Focus Mates in the morning. I have a standing workout with the same person every morning. And we've both admitted that when the other person doesn't show up, both of us are just like, nah, never mind. I mean, we don't stand each other up. It's like, I can't make it tomorrow. Or one time I had an emergency and had to leave early and just... Then I've heard her cancel on me the night before, and I wake up and I'm like, nah. So that's why the accountability thing is so good. But I do want to do some co-writing. My problem is, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege here, but I want to write during the day, and a lot of my audience wants to write at night or on the weekends because you're doing jobs during the day, which is absolutely valid. I just don't find myself writing a lot at those times, and so to set up co-writing would be a little bit more challenging. I could do one at night, I guess. But I'd want a game at night. I still have to figure stuff out. I don't know. I've lost track of chat. Well, I might be done embroidery for today. I think the cat is on my scissors. Uh-oh. I found somebody on Etsy who does very dark embroidery stuff. Very cute, weird, dark embroidery stuff. And I guess there's a bunch of people who do things like that. But, she has a whole series of cats looking out the window at things. So it's like the perspective is you're behind the cat's on the windowsill looking out the window, and then you see what's beyond the window. And there's like one with an alien abduction. There's a ship getting pulled down by a kraken. There's a Sasquatch. There's just a bunch of cute, weird horror things involved with that. What I really like, and I am aware I sound like an old person who just discovered chat on my phone, but I did not know there was such a thing as stitch-alongs. In fact, even when I bought it, I didn't know what SAL meant. But there's a really big project that apparently they release bit by bit. So basically you buy the project and then you get the email with the new bit every week. I'm assuming if people sew fast, then they could keep up or even get ahead. But for me, it's just exciting. It feels like a little dopamine hit every time I get a new picture, new part of the picture unveiled, even though I'm still working on the first one. But I'm doing it. I'm working on it. So I'm doing what seems to be a greenhouse of oddities. So it's going to have like carnivorous plants and poisonous plants, and I think George Washington Carver is in one of the more recent revelations. I don't remember. But yeah, I didn't know stitch-alongs were a thing, so I got very excited when I found out about it. I think I just like feeling like I'm part of a club. So I've always been like that. If there's... Oh, bye, Underpope. Good to see you. I think if there's a... Sorry. When I was a kid and we got a VCR, big, fancy time. Remember, I just turned 50. This is back in the Stone Age. That I liked to record all my favorite shows, especially the specials, like Charlie Brown Christmas or something. But when it came on the TV for real, I would also want to watch it then. And my father would be like, why? You have it on a tape where you can watch it and fast forward through the commercials. And I couldn't explain it. And I think it's like, even if you're not physically with somebody, knowing that you're part of an experience that a bunch of people are having at the same time, that makes it a different experience for you. So I don't know anybody else who's doing the stitch-along, but just knowing that we're all getting the same pattern at the same time is really cool. My throat is getting scratchy. So that's been my latest ADHD obsession. But I'm not giving up on the resin, partly because I have a couple of gallons that I hit subscribe on for Amazon and did not cancel. So before I had problems having too little resin, and now I have way, way too much. You love stitch-alongs. I'm not doing any currently, but I love them. Shauna, do you want me to send you this person's Etsy store? Because they're awesome. You can also get the past stitch-alongs, which is a haunted library and a haunted house, I think? I really want to get the laundry net. The laundry? The haunted laundry, that's what we're talking about. The haunted library next. Yeah. Excuse me. If you don't hear from me, Shauna, poke me on Discord and I'll get it to you. Who is this duck? Ooh. I think that's a duck from the new, well, I can find out. Whoa. Wow. Oh my god. What is happening? Okay, so there have been instances of codes in this game. If I actually put out this part of the audio out for everybody, essentially when you click on a duck, you get to see a close-up of the duck, and the duck does a quack. usually, it's almost always the same quack. Some ducks have a different quack. We clicked on the duck that looks like a Cylon or a Terminator. Or Geordie LaForge with a shiny or vision thing. Vision thing? Scope? No, he didn't call it a scope. What did he call it? I don't care. Anyway. So but when you click on this duck, you get its point of view, which is a very pink view of the world. We're getting scan modes, and we're getting byte code over in the corner with 4 numbers being in some order. And they're not the same as they were the last time the numbers come out. I really don't know what's going on. I do know that the places that do require you to have codes are not nearly as complex as this. They're like 4 single-digit numbers. You made a pens Discord. I did not see that, Shauna. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I don't know what's oh, there's Acorn. Acorn's on fire. I don't think that was the fault of the, oh. No, how do I get out of here? I want to see... Okay, so we have the duck I've only seen like a couple of times, which is the, rocket duck. Somewhere. Oh, hell, do this the old-fashioned way. Click on it. There we go. So we now have the rocket duck, and the rocket duck must... Oh, the rocket duck, it's been lit. It's already bumped into one of the ducks that are on fire. Which are Duck Gently and Acorn, I believe. So we need to watch this duck. What is that on its back? I guess that's just a... I don't know. Well, we'll see. Oh, Marvin has fallen. There's Marvin down on the bottom. I just recently bought a used copy of the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio scripts. And was reading the introductions to that last night, and they're awesome. Makes me very sad. Douglas Adams is one of my... There it goes! Wait! Fly! Fly! Fly away! Be free! Yay! Wow! Oh! Oh, it's gone. Ah! Look at the sky! Look at the sky! Dang it! Oh well. Goodbye, little firecracker duck. We missed you. Anyway, sorry. I've been wanting to see that for a while. Yeah, like, Douglas Adams is... Now that I've built a writing career, I feel like I can go meet some of my idols, and I have met almost all of my living idols. I am often awkward around them, but I at least know that the one thing we have in common, I can say, hello, I am also a writer, I'm a fan, blah blah blah. Also, being a writer, I know that having someone come up to you and say they're a fan is pretty freaking awesome, and you shouldn't be worried about doing it. It's possible the person will have been famous for too long and be tired, but most people I know would love to hear that, so just saying that. But knowing that I probably would have found myself at the same con as Douglas Adams, and I probably would have been able to meet him, just breaks my heart. Because he had such a huge influence on me, and he died in 2001, I think. Yeah, May 2001. 22 years ago. And I'm still just sad whenever I think about it. He's gone. Oh, it's in the Crafts channel, thank you. Does anybody have anything they want to ask about stuff? Hey, Daniel, good to see you. About writing or my work or stuff, things. thank you for the resub. I think I said hello, but not thank you for the resub. So I'm saying thank you for the resub now. Has anybody seen any... are there any good visual novels that people are excited about? I bought Mask of the Rose, and I've played a little bit of it, but not a ton. So I thought I might do that one. What kind of alcohol should I drink to distract me from the slow speed of publishing contracts? I go for vodka. Or I don't know, dark rum seems good for anything. Just, is it gin? It can be gin. Really, it needs to be something you like. You're not going to force yourself to choke down something terrible just because this is the publishing waiting drink. I think vodka's good because it goes with a lot of things. I think dark rum is good because it goes with some of my favorite things. So, like a dark and stormy is probably my favorite mixed drink. Except my husband and I took a cocktails class from the Sur La Table. Like during the pandemic, Sur La Table was doing a lot of online classes, and they still are, which is cool. But we were doing just occasional classes just to do stuff together and cook together, do something new. And we took a cocktail class that I didn't think I would like because it was basically making a Manhattan and then several different kinds of Manhattan, several variants. And while I still don't like the taste of whiskey or scotch, I do have to say that some of the drinks we made were really fascinating and complex. We actually did something with rosemary smoke that I thought was a gimmick, but it actually changed the flavor of the drink. It's really interesting. What kind... Oh, how freaking excited are you for the release of Chaos Terminal? I'm pretty terrified, actually. I have not done I've done one second book in a series. And while people liked it, it didn't get a lot of traction. Which is why I then wrote 6 Wakes, because they didn't want any more in that series. I think that's one reason why I was waiting on working on book 3, because I wanted to see how the book did or how the publisher felt about the book, and I didn't hear anything. So I'm excited about it. I think I came up with an interesting antagonist. Never played any visual novels, but I've watched Space Valkyries play a few. They might have some good suggestions. That's true. Yeah, Space Valkyries and Urban Bohemian have been playing a very, admittedly, sweet/depressing book about, or game about an immigrant family and their son in the 80s, and their son being uncomfortable/ashamed of his culture's foods because that makes him different at school. So it's very the paper menagerie, if you're familiar with that story that will make you sob. And I mean, it's fascinating. One of the really interesting things is there's a cooking part, cooking element to the game, where you the mom is trying to take her recipe book that she brought from India, I believe, but the book's been damaged during the trip, and so you have to figure out what is missing, either by common sense or by an illustration or by a memory of cooking with your mother kind of thing. But it's it covers a lot of immigrant experiences. The text messages from the mom to the son are kind of heartbreaking. He doesn't answer many of them, and when he does, they're kind of monosyllabic. It's very sad. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling part of the game, but it's It is a very beautiful and cooking-focused view of that experience, which is really interesting. But I have Mask of the Rose on Switch. That's right, that's why I haven't been playing it, because I couldn't get my Switch hooked up, but now I can. So I intend on doing Mask of the Rose, possibly Citizen Sleeper, since all 3 of its parts are out. All 3 DLCs are out. What else? I'm gonna look at what Steam has. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves. I have Arcade Spirits and Arcade Spirits 2. That's pretty good. Oh, I have Cinders, which I heard was good. I have the new I've lost it. I'm Dream Daddy. I never played that one all the way through. I think everybody was not into Forget-Me-Nots. That was the one with the organs growing on the trees and the murdered cat that I think we all got upset about. I got A Long Journey to an Uncertain End, which is a spacefaring visual novel type adventure that is in the spirit of now I can't remember it. The Small and Angry Planet book by Becky Chambers. Long Journey to a Small Angry Planet, that's what it is. Which is the one I was thinking of. Oh, Coffee Talk. I have Coffee Talk and I got Coffee Talk 2 and I haven't played Coffee Talk 2 yet. That one is definitely interesting. I played a lot of The Wandering Village. Excuse me. I played a lot of The Wandering Village this weekend, and I realized it's like Oxygen Not Included, in that I will start a base and I will get my people doing their things, and then I will have failed to get to a middle game with the proper infrastructure, and then people start dying. That is how I play Oxygen Not Included, and now that is how I play The Wandering Village, because my Wandering Village, it's basically a Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind type world with spores and giant creatures everywhere, and so you're building a settlement on top of a great lumbering turtle-like beast. And the beast stays on the road, but at first it'll wander wherever it wants on the road. Later, after it trusts you, you can tell it to go right or left or straight at a crossroads, but you can't tell it to do anything else. You can't tell it to turn around. And so it moves from different biomes to different other biomes. So when you're in the jungle, you can grow plants that like really warm atmospheres. And when you're just going through the mountains, you need to be growing beets, I think. And then when you get to the desert, there are stuff you can grow, but it's hard to get water unless you're growing cactuses. And I still haven't figured out how to get the water from the cactus. I don't know if that just happens automatically or what, because I'm usually dead by then. So, yeah, Daniel, every now and then I wonder if I could write a visual novel, but then I put massive loads of doubt in my head. That is me exactly. I have tried to reduce it down to a scene. It's actually a scene based on me playing with the story engine cards here at my desk when I was on stream one day. I think it had something to do with lentil trees and big, ancient, abandoned tunnels. And I thought, I'm just going to write a little story about someone going to a town and getting a job. And I'm still trying to make it bigger than it needs to be in my head. It's fun feeling like you're getting good at something, but then it makes you much, much less willing to start small when you want to learn something else new. So I'm like, I can write a book. Why would I not write an interactive novel? But I can write a book. Maybe I should just focus on a scene of an interactive thing. I was very sad to see the e-magazine dedicated to interactive fiction go under. And I was fascinated to find out that the stories they bought were all 5,000 words or less. So you had to tell a compelling story, and the entire thing had to be 5,000 words or less, including, the different branches, the different choices, where everything goes. And that's when you realize the really, really talented people were doing it, because when it comes to interactive storytelling, you usually don't give the people huge blocks of text before they make a decision. So, have I found the story engine has been useful to my writing? A little bit. I have to admit I haven't used it much. But the time that I was demoing it here at my desk, it actually gave me some ideas that just kind of got lodged in my mind. So, I think that's pretty useful. But I have not made the time to sit down and lay out all the cards. I should do another update of the story engine. If I could find it. My kid had a visiting friend from out of town this summer, and so I kind of had to take all of my crap from over there and pile it neatly here so we could actually use the bedroom. And I'm not sure where the story engine ended up, but I have it. Oh, there's Bruce. But like I said, there's the thing that was happening with the setting of my interactive novel. It was like going to be a fantasy setting to go get a job at a wasteland where there are monks that have to guard the lentil trees. And I, of course, wanted to make it more challenging than it needed to be by saying, you have a choice between these 3 jobs, and then there are NPCs who will take the jobs that you don't take. So the 3 NPCs and you, there are 4 jobs, and the other NPCs. And then I'm like, how do I shuffle all that around? But I got some advice for that. So yeah, I think it's useful. I think it can be quite powerful. I think sometimes I worry if I would have, like, my specific genres are so specific that I'm not going to find a story engine deck to go with it. Because the story engine deck comes with a bunch of smaller expansions that are very genre specific. Like a cyberpunk one, a dystopian one. Gosh, what else? Let me see if I can find any. I think they're all either covered or across the room. Yeah, they're across the room. They're way over there. They're over there. But yeah, I should do another demo of that, because it's just a fun tool to use. And the art's really neat too. They really did a good job. I think they have a new, I'm not sure if the crowdfunding is closed yet, but they did start a new one that's kind of a Game Master's focus thing, I think. I don't remember. I did the thing I do with Kickstarters, which is I supported it and then forgot about it. But you know what I haven't forgotten about, which is the Brindlewood Bay Kickstarter, which should have shipped by now. And I don't really hold a grudge, simply because I know that the entire world's shipping has been screwed up for 3 years. And I'm not sure when any end is in sight. But I'm trying to understand that they may have everything they need for the book, but they're not... they may not be able to ship it. Also I'm sorry. I'm not breathing enough, apparently. I also want to play another game, Brindlewood Bay. I miss it. I've never gotten the positive and negative ducks before. Yay! Yeah, they stick together. Literally. Isn't that adorable? Yay, I've never seen... Well, I got to see 2 cool things. I got to see the rocket ducks blast off, and the, Duck Dodgers found its friend. I'm impatient for Brindlewood Bay, too. Yeah. Yep. Brindlewood Bay is just so much fun. But I think I'm going to have to stop because this computer is making me hot, which means I can't even imagine how hot it is. And I have to figure out why it started screaming right when I turned it on. But wanted to get a stream up. I am definitely streaming tomorrow because it is I should be writing 18-year birthday. I might go buy party hats. I don't know. I might get cake. I don't know. But we're doing a stream. It's going to be fun. Damn it. Maybe we'll just play with Story Engine. Maybe we'll just do... I don't know. I'll think about it. I've got a whole day to plan. I probably should have planned earlier than now, but whatever. I also, as I mentioned, I did not celebrate my affiliate-versary, which was Sunday. So as of Sunday, I've been an affiliate on Twitch for 3 years, which is pretty cool. I am nowhere on the road to getting partner, which, from what I understand, is mainly a feather in your cap, and you can start your own stream team, which I really wanted the second one. I'm very honored to be on the Team Cypher, and I've met some amazing people through that, but I really wanted to do a stream team of science fiction authors, because there's a lot of us on here, and I thought that would be fun, but I can't do that until I'm a partner. So, Valerie, if you make partner before I do, it's on you to start the SF Writer stream team. Maybe Mike Underwood's closer to it. You totally should do a crafting stream, Shauna. I will never make partner, LOL. Okay. You gotta believe! The requirements? The biggest one is... in your last 30 days, an average of 75 people watching your stream. Yep. It's also like number of hours streamed, number of days streamed in a 30-day period. But those are... you can control those. The big thing is the 75. Oh, thank you for dropping in, Feverwood. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I do love the Placid Plastic Duck game. I love it so much. I actually found the new map to be a little... it's a lot. It's not... I don't think it's really good for streaming, because there's a lot of wandering around. Actually, I love it when someone else streams it, but it kind of stresses me out because I'm not sure where to look, because the new map is so big and weird. Yeah, I know. Whomst. I don't know. Maybe Brandon? Mike? No. I don't know. I don't know a lot. I don't watch a lot of people who have even close to that. I watch two partners, Cypher of Tyr and Urban Bohemian. They both are partnered. But, yeah, so nowhere near that. But really, I just want a sci-fi nerd stream team. Or sci-fi writer nerd. Because, I mean, we got N.K. Jemisin, we got, Mike Underhill, we got Brandon, why can't I remember Brandon's last name? The Rising Tides. God, who else? Did I say N.K. Jemisin? Cameron Hurley has streamed before, but I don't think she does a lot of talking. I think she just likes to let you watch her run around World of Warcraft. So yeah, I don't know. Darcy Little Badger streams. I didn't know that. That's cool. Darcy Little Badger, one of the hotter names in science fiction today. Winning lots and lots of awards. But I think I'm gonna head out and get cooled off because, dang it, it is very warm in here. And who's streaming? Got DM Jazzy Hands doing Baldur's Gate. We got Urban Bohemian finishing Venba, which is the immigrant story I told you about. And then Mr. Joker TV, who's streaming Oxygen Not Included again. I really want to play Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm making myself wait until the book is done. Because I already have... I mean, I got my Steam Deck, which means I can play all the PC games that I've been sitting on anytime I want. So... And I have Final Fantasy 16, which kind of... I stopped playing because of the ridiculous Griffin quest. At some point in the game, you get, like, a job board, and they're like, oh, there's these monsters out there, you have to find them and kill them. I have come across 2 of these bosses just by running around. But once they gave me one to look for to kill, could not find it at all. So, that actually made me want to not play the game anymore. Yeah, I'm a narrator from Bohemian. I always love the vibes in his stream. You need to go bang the rocks together. Oh, man, Wire Duck, you are absolutely right. That's the secret to bang the rocks together, guys. Hi, Ellie. You're not soft enough and making biscuits on your chin. Well, cats gotta do what cats are gotta do, you know? I gotta go to a baseball game tonight. Alright, the raid is set up. You can do the hashtag #merraid for the raid call. You can use any of my emotes to say hello when you get there. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me, and I'm sorry I've been irregular lately. I'm gonna try to get back on it. Hopefully September. After the travel is done. And then definitely October, because the book will be done. If the book's not done, I'll have bigger problems than not streaming. But good to see people. Really appreciate you being here. And we can... hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for the I Should Be Writing birthday party. I don't know what I Should Be Writing is going to get for its birthday. I'll figure it out tonight. But y'all take care. Bye. I Should Be Writing is available to you under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Theme music by John Anelio. Art by Numbers Ninja. Production by Summer Brooks. And hosting by Libsyn. Find all of this information and more at merverse.com. And remember, we can't do this without you. Thanks for your support.
I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who. Yeah, I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.